Hell. Okay, so the chapter begins with CP0 docking on Egghead, followed by the chapter cutting back to the revolutionaries and seeing Kuma teleporting away, assumingly heading towards the island as well. Which I will say, I love how the moment Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy dock on the island, there's this immediate sense of urgency. Like everything afterwards just happens. It's an immediate danger sense. Like everything just goes to complete shit. And just from and it all happens from the context that we know these characters, we know their modus operandi. Like none of what happens feels kind of forced. Like it's all flowing, it's all happening very naturally. And with things now going completely to hell, it makes it all the more important for Vegapunk to get off the island. And it is interesting because we learn more about Vegapunk's goal or the details of it in this chapter, and how he wants to create a true self-sustaining energy source for the entire world, which, noble enough, but I do find it a little hilarious that to accomplish the goal, he essentially swindled the government of money in a similar fashion with what Caesar did to Big Mom, and now these chickens have basically come home to roost, to put it lightly. Like everything that's happened, it would have happened regardless, but I suppose. But the fact that he's kept like so much secret from the government, it was bound to arouse suspicion. Like he should have done. I think this shows that Vegapunk needed to do a better job at the very least covering his tracks, so to speak. Also, Vegapunk, trust me, when it comes to your research, you're much more likely to have a meaningful conversation with Nami, Robin, or hell, even Chopper and Frankie. But Luffy, I wouldn't bet on it. Although, being serious for a second, I do think right now that the key that's really going to affect the flow of the story and what's really going to be pushing this arc forward from here is that giant. With the Lordom we got on it, I feel whatever direction the story takes with this arc is going to determine what happens with that giant and what's going to happen when CP0 finds it. That said, one of the major things I really like about this chapter is the dynamic among Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy. Like, I touched on this briefly in a previous chapter, but I feel Oda is showing slightly more of the human side of these characters just by allowing them to interact off each other more, whereas before, when they were introduced to CP9, even though they interacted with each other, there was this very cold distance among them. But in these past couple of chapters, despite still being part of the government cipher pole, Lucci and Kaku, but especially Lucci, feel much more human than they ever did before. Like they just feel like they feel like even though Lucci still kind of has that kind of stone-faced, cold demeanor, he still feels much more human than he's ever felt before. And even more so as well with Lucci and Luffy's unexpected little reunion, I am even more curious where Oda plans to take Lucci from here, because this is a chapter that feels like it does have the most narrative parallels to Punk Hazard in my opinion, but unlike with Punk Hazard, I'm having a hard time imagining a scenario where Luffy and Lucci team up like what happened with Smoker. So while I don't imagine that they're gonna team up anytime soon, I think just seeing Luffy here is gonna be enough in order to just arouse suspicions in Lucci, and set Lucci on the path of doing a little more digging and finding out about what is really going on here. Like just learning for what was the real purpose that the government actually sent them there, and I'll be most interested in how what he learns is going to affect the decisions he makes as well. Like to me, there's just a lot of potential for Lucci's character in order to develop from even more from just this one little split second reunion of seeing them again, and I think in Lucci's mind, he's going to say, okay, the Straw Hats are here. Why are they here, kind of thing. Like that's like at any time, like it's true that anytime Luffy and the Straw Hats are involved with something, it usually means that they're involved in something big. So that is going to arouse suspicion in Lucci. And again, I really like I just really like this setup and the potential it has, because Lucci has kind of I'm definitely among the people who think that Lucci is still probably one of my favorite One Piece antagonists. So just the potential of how he can develop as a character from here is just kind of interesting to me, honestly. Now let's talk about when CP9's raid begins and everything starts going to hell, because we see Shaka orders the Seraphims into action to combat into action with Sentomaru in charge. And from what I read of that moment in the chapter, Lucci might have interrupted things before the order could be carried out, but that does have me, or maybe it's still going to happen. It just happened at a split-second time almost. But in either scenario, it did. But in either scenario, it does have me questioning where exactly does the character like Prince Sentomaru fit into this scenario? Where do his allegiances lie at this point? Because while it is true he was initially introduced as a science officer who works with Vegapunk, he is also an official member of the Navy as well. So at this point, does he count as one of Vegapunk's trusted people or not? That's something I hope gets explored or touched on, despite all the chaos right now. Because like Sentomaru has always kind of been an antagonistic force, but he seems to have always seemed to maintain somewhat of a loyalty to Vegapunk himself. So I'm just curious as to it's something I never thought about, but just how much does Sentomaru know? How much has Vegapunk let him in on? Like that is something I never thought about until recently. But I assume Sentomaru has to know something about what's going on here, and I'll just be curious as to how much he does know. And we're just exploring that. Of course, with Atlas more or less out of commission, whatever happens, Luffy and others are gonna have to work fast in escaping before all of Vegapunk's satellites are killed. Because again, if it is true that if those satellites are killed, then Vegapunk dies too, then you need to get the fuck out of there now. But aside from that, though, there's not a whole lot more to really talk about with this chapter. It just it set the stage for what's to come from here and how things will more than likely play out, which it is going to be interesting to see what a potential rematch between Lucci and Luffy is going to look like, however short it is. Like I said throughout this review, I'm much more interested in what the little implications surrounding this chapter are going to mean with all the little details we learned about in this chapter. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, the subscribe button, and just leave it around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.